Jake Burns with JBCI, back here at Handel's in Glendora. First video we posted was regarding our underground phase of construction, making sure that all our underground was correct, everything to look for before you get prepared for pouring concrete. Now we've poured concrete, we got our walls up, we got our rough plumbing in, our electrical. I get excited about this part of construction. We have passed inspection, we're ready to install drywall. Everybody always rushes this phase. Let me explain to you why that's a horrible idea. Let's go inside and check it out. Let's talk rough wall construction right here. Everything's good in the inspector's eyes, but we got to take a step back. We got to make sure that everything is done correctly. We've got our plumbing in the walls, we got our electrical in the walls. Everything has to match out perfect. Following the plans is not good enough. You got to get the equipment specs, you got to get the fixture specs, you got to make sure where all the legs are, you got to make sure where the actual cord is from the equipment so you get your receptacle correct. You got to walk every single wall. You literally got to do this 3 times. Make sure it's done correctly. Let's go over the most critical wall, our die wall right here. This is our make line. We've got a reach-in freezer over there. I've got cabinets that come over here, a dump sink, a Sunday station, more cabinets, a hand sink over there. This wall's super critical. Something you notice about this wall, we have no chases. There's no walls that come up. This wall literally sits in the middle, so everything has to get ran underground to it. It's got to be perfect. Cabinet comes to 36 inches. We have a 4-inch backsplash at 40. Top of our receptacle is perfect. We gave ourselves 3/4 of an inch tolerance. This gets capped with stone that ends up 1 inch. The stone will end up there, so our receptacle fits perfect. At JBCI, we build our own cabinets. We have to consider everything. One, our floor sink for our dump sink needs to be perfect. It's got to be 50% in, 50% out. Now, our Sunday station, 48 inches. Don't ever make anything 48 inches. You got to leave yourself a little bit of tolerance. 50 inches in the middle so we can get our overlap on our cabinets. Everything fits in nice and tight. We want to make sure that our water and our cabinets stay in the compartment of the cabinet where the dump sink's going to be located. Make sure your water's done correctly. Make sure you got accessibility within there to service your plumbing. When you're in a spot like this, you need to visualize the cabinets being installed with your backsplash and how the whole system's going to work, where you're going to plug things in. You got to get your receptacles correct on the height. Hand sink goes here, direct drain, another trap primer manifold. This will all fit within the sink compartment. Everything's got to line up. You don't get another chance to do this wall again. If you are done with all your drywall work and everything's set and you set all your cabinets up and your epoxy's completed and you realize you missed something, you got to go back in, you got to saw cut the floor, you got to run up a chase. Everything's 100%. Things happen in the future. People want new POS systems. Maybe they want a new receptacle. So we always run another chase, just an extra. So we got another chase running underground with a pull station. We'll put an access box there, and that runs from this die wall up through a full height wall above the T-bar. It's always accessible for the client. First thing I wanted to point out was the cement board that we put on when we're sheeting our walls. So we built over 300 restaurants. Having done that, we've demoed a lot of restaurants. By demoing a lot of restaurants, we come in, we open up the walls. We always see mold, the drywall's damaged, the inside of the stud is always corroded, rusted out. We've made it part of our passion to build things to last. By doing that, we put in the extra step of putting cement board. We don't care if it's an office, we don't care what it is. If it's in a restaurant, it's getting 12 inches of cement board prior to our floor going in. That will protect these walls, will protect all the investment that the owner has put into the restaurant. So it's built to last. All right, we're inside the manager's office right here. We know that this place is going to be a hub for all the low voltage, the speakers, the cameras, the monitoring systems. So we go in, we add extra receptacles, extra whips, extra everything. There's no food production in here. This is not a health approved area, but we still build them the same. We do the cement board all the way around them. This floor is gonna get epoxy. We will FRP this office. We wanna make this office bulletproof, just like it's a kitchen. We got a water chilled system for the ice cream makers. We gotta make sure that rough in is done perfectly. These machines are huge. They take up a lot of space. You put something in the wrong spot, now you gotta shimmy something over. It's all gotta fit. It needs to be mapped out perfectly. So we gotta get our water in the right spot. We gotta get our disconnects in the right spot that service the ice cream makers. These things ever go down, they need to turn things off. It's dangerous to try to move around the machine. You need to have these up in a nice accessible spot so that nobody gets hurt. We also got to fit 3 carts in between this. On top of that, on this location, we got a prep sink next to it. That plumbing's got to be done right. We got to be able to visualize what the finished product is going to be during this phase of construction. All right, let's go over the restroom. This is the most critical rough you got to get. You gotta ensure that your toilet is roughed in correctly. You got your water closet ring at least 18 inches. You gotta have your lavatory roughed in 18 inches off the wall. You gotta make sure that you got your separation. This is your tie-in to your waist of your urinal. Your top of your lip has to be 17 inches max. Here's a flushometer for the urinal. From your adjacent wall to your lav, 5 feet. You can't mess that up. It's got to be done right. You got to get your specs on your urinal. You got to have a minimum of 4 feet. We go 4'1" here. We do not want to have a problem. We're doing it tomorrow. We're adding all our blocking in. You want to put blocking in for all your grab bars, all your lav sinks, anything that's going to get mounted on a restroom wall. This is the kind of thing that will stop you from getting your final inspection. And let's just say the inspector missed it. You open yourself up for lawsuits if you don't get this restroom done correctly. Architects, plumbing engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, they almost don't talk to each other. You got to take this into your own account here. Get the spec sheets. Pick out all your fixtures, all your grab bars, all your soap and paper towel dispensers, your mirror during this phase. Very critical. Make sure you got it down wired. That way you can measure everything. A lot of inspectors don't require you to fill up your water in your vent lines all the way to the roof. We test every vent line. If somebody missed gluing a piece of pipe or anything, you're gonna get smell issues. You're gonna have that methane gas. I can't tell you how many restaurants I've gone in that I didn't build where the owner has a methane smell issue. 99% of the time, it's one of these fittings didn't get glued or there's a leak in this fitting. So what we do, we put all our test tees on, we fill these vents up all the way to the roof, we make sure we don't have any leaks. If it can hold that amount of head pressure, we know we've done our job. When we drywall these, we know every fitting is glued, everything, there's no leaks. Okay, it's exciting. We're gonna be drywalling. What we gotta do is keep all our systems on test. Happens all the time. People will run their drywall, they don't see what they're doing. They screw a screw right through the vent lines, a water line. We prevent that by putting nail guards in any area that's susceptible to getting screws, like our bottom plate. Over here, anytime we're running horizontal through a stud, we run our gas lines at 60 PSI when we're drywalling. We wanna know if we hit a gas line. So while we're drywalling, we are testing all of our lines, keeping them under pressure the entire time. This is just your rough in for your doors. Make sure you pick out your doors. Make sure you know what kind of jam you're gonna get. Check with the manufacturer, find out what the rough in is for that door. I can't tell you how many times this is a problem. If you don't pick your door out, or an architect or an owner tries to change the doors on you at the last minute. This is a timely jam with a legacy door. We know on the timely jams, our rough in is 1.5 inches wider than the door, 1 inch taller. This is a 3.0, 7.0 door. Our rough in needs to be 37.5 by 85 inches. Just get it done right the first time, then you don't have to worry about it. All right, let's talk about our mop sink. Mop sink is the dirtiest area in the entire restaurant. Mop sinks are very difficult. You gotta plumb them like you're doing a shower pan. Basically, your rough in has to be perfect. It's almost too perfect, so we do some considerations to make sure that we don't have a problem. Before we pour our concrete, we run at least 4 inches of foam all the way around. That way we can liberate the foam, we can open up, we can move, we can manipulate, we can do what we need to do to make sure that the mop sink gets plumbed in correctly. Get your mop sink faucet with a vacuum breaker. That rough in's gotta be perfect, gotta be exactly 8 inches. You don't wanna be opening up walls. We got our water heater platform. We're dealing with an electric water heater. We wanna make sure we can service those lines as well above it. Knowing what size our water heater is, visualizing exactly where it's going, knowing where we want our hot water and cold water to be stubbed in. If we need to service that water heater, we can do so without it being a big challenge. One other area, this is my favorite place to run our loop. Obviously, we don't have our hot water heater in. We want to test our water lines. We don't have a fixture that will mix the water. So what we like to do that at the mop sink faucet. It's a perfect area with our 2 8-inch nipples that stub out. We run our loop. This is always under pressure. We leave it like this almost through the entire job. All right, well, thank you for checking out all the rough wall construction work. I hope you learned something. We triple tested. I feel good about us putting drywall up. I'm excited for the next phase. Normally when I'm done with the restaurant, everybody just sees the finished product. It's fun to show them what goes on inside the walls. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos, please follow us. Thanks for checking us out. More to come.